Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada, where it is our mission to grow together in love, faith, justice, and joy. We here at UUFNN are growing, not just in numbers, but in the faith that being and working together, we can bring about justice. It's a joy to see each of you this Sunday as we connect for a time of reflection and introspection. We welcome all to be part of us, regardless of racial identity, age, economic circumstances, immigration status, sexual orientation, or gender identity. I'm Dave Bianchi, and it's my pleasure this morning to serve as your worship associate. We love having new people join us, and if that's you, feel free to contact the office or our website for more information. You can also click on the link in the chat box to fill out the newcomer form and sign up for our newsletter that will keep you informed of all the activities here at UUFNN. You can update your name on the screen so we know who's visiting us. Note that you'll remain muted during the service, but you can use the chat box for comments, especially during prayer and meditation time. As a courtesy, you might refrain from making announcements while folks are presenting. But join us for coffee time following the service when we break into small groups and have an opportunity to visit. So thank you for being with us this morning.
Each day provides us with an opportunity to love again, to hurt again, to embrace joy, to experience unease, to discover the tragic. Each day provides us with the opportunity to live.
This day is no different. This hour no more unique than the last, except maybe today, maybe now, among friends and fellow journeyers, maybe for the first time, maybe silently, we can share ourselves.
You're invited to access the chalice that you have nearby as we light our chalices together. We light our individual flames and thus our collective chalice. Glad comfort our May this flame and these truths give us the courage to move forward to
Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from creed to like angels. If you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Love will guide us indeed. Love will guide us especially through the hard night. Recently, a combination of reading the book Cast and several persons of color in our congregation being very courageous and sharing with me of their experiences within our congregation has rocked me to my core. And it has challenged me and motivated me at a whole new level. Because we seek to be a community of justice, we are getting real today. It's difficult to change the world if we haven't done our own work within. Sometimes I hear some of you lament that we don't have more folks of color in our congregation. And sometimes we ponder why it is that visit, but don't stay and don't come back. Today might be enlightening in that regard. It might be hard to hear, and that's okay, because we can do hard together. We're invited to listen with our hearts today, with truly open hearts, without defensiveness, without trying to minimize or discount what someone says is their experience. I know I've made mistakes in this regard. We all have. It's uncomfortable. But you know what? Discomfort brings growth. Awareness and growth bring transformation. Comfort to courage, beloveds. This is not about experiencing shame. It's not about personal failure or having malicious intent. We're a product of our culture. Racism is firmly entrenched in the DNA of this country, and we can't not be impacted by that. But this is about being on a journey together and learning. Sometimes I think about it of a diagram with different quadrants. And the quadrants are, we know what we know what we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know. And that is the danger zone, where we don't know what we don't know. It's a dangerous place, and it's what we're about today. Coming to understand what we don't know, even though we might think we know. So I'll say once again that this is not about experiencing shame. It's about being on a journey together and learning. I trust that love will guide us. I invite you to trust that too. Love will guide us indeed. Love will guide us even and especially when it's uncomfortable in the hard night.
You know, it's through your generosity and dedication that we here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada are self-sufficient. By each of us stepping forward and offering what we can continue to provide a space for all that we do for each other and the wider community. Please share what bounty you can today by texting 73256. Put UUFNN in the message box and hit send, and you can also mail a check to the office at 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno 89511. Or if you want to simplify the process, you can sign up for automatic giving. So contact Carol at the office for the authorization form. We're also sharing the plate with the Native Communities Program, which is part of PLAN, the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada. They're working to develop an indigenous voice for the people who have been separated from their ancestral lands. Remember, you have to text separately from your offering. So thank you for taking care of our beloved community. Now let the offering begin. Please join me as we bless these offerings to the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Betty Holtz and have been a member of this congregation since 1962 in the early days of the fellowship, and have been a Universalist for over 80 years. Keeping the faith is our stewardship campaign message this year. I keep the faith in Unitarian Universalism because of our foremothers and fathers who were visionaries in believing in the democratic process, were free thinkers and liberals at that time religiously. With others, they were influential in arguing and writing the democratic process into the US Constitution. They upheld that every person was of worth and there should be equity in the law. But there were others at the convention that did not agree that all people were equal. So we keep the faith and soldier on Black Lives Matter, voting, equal rights, and other issues. Transformation comes slowly. In the past, members of our Unitarian Universalist congregation were effective in changing civil rights laws in Nevada during the 1960s for the Blacks. A UU woman successfully lobbied the city council in Reno to be a nuclear-free zone. Members of our congregation helped keep the lid on peaceful marches during the Vietnam War. For several years, the Unitarian Universalists were the only religious group that marched in the Gay Pride Parade. Transformation comes slowly. More recently, with groups of others in our community, we are feeding the homeless, addressing immigration reform and the needs for immigrants. Black Lives Matter issues have become very important. Women and family issues, including sex education in the schools and prison reform, are also a part of each one of us' interest. Our Unitarian Universalist principles support us as we continue our efforts, individually and collectively, for the democratic process and equality for all. Transformation comes slowly. Our loving congregation has been a place that saved individuals on their life journeys. Our congregation needs to be strong in ministerial and lay leadership and have a vision for the future that is supported financially by our congregation. Annually, at this time of the year, this stewardship committee asks the congregation for their financial support for the coming year. We realize these are uncertain times and the future can be difficult in planning and sometimes is in great influx. However, we would like to hear from you by phone or email. We are most grateful for those who have already committed to this and connected with the stewardship committee. We now have 96 families and individuals who have pledged in $61,340. We're very pleased with this, but we realize also we need about $53,000 more to make our goal. So we hope you will connect with us. In keeping the faith, Jim and I are grateful that we can continue our giving at 5% of our income to the congregation. Transformation comes slowly. Thank you.
This song that we're about to learn is a song that's entitled "Somebody's Hurting My Brother." Now, this song was actually born in a town hall meeting around coal ash. And the meeting came about because Duke Energy was spilling coal ash into poor Black and brown and poor white neighborhoods. After hearing testimony after testimony of people who were impacted physically and mentally by the coal ash, this song came as an inspiration of those testimonies. So I'll call to you, "Somebody's hurting my brother," and it's gone on, and your response is, "Far too long." Yes, it's gone on.
Far too long.
It's gone on.
Far too long.
Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on.
Far too long.
Now the end is, and we won't be silent anymore. We'll say that together.
And we won't be silent anymore.
Okay? And so we'll try the rehearsal version, which goes, "Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on
far too long.
Yes, it's gone on
far too long.
and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Tell you it's gone on far too long. Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Yeah, somebody's hurting my sister, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Tell you it's gone on far too long. Somebody's hurting my sister, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Did you hear? Somebody's poisoning the water, and it's gone on far too long. Yes, it's gone on far too long. Tell you it's gone on far too long. Somebody's poisoning the water, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. Have you heard? Somebody wants to build that wall, y'all, and it's gone on far too long. And we won't be silent anymore. And we won't be silent anymore. And we won't be silent anymore. Just your voices start clapping, and we won't. And we won't be silent anymore. Last time, all together. And we won't be silent
Since coming to UUFNN 3 years ago, it's always been a happy place, a safe place, a place of comfort. And I assumed it was that way for everyone. But over the last few months, I've had a growing awareness, a pervasive discomfort in the realization that despite all we strive to be, we are not a safe, comforting, or happy place for everyone. This was a huge shock to me. But as my eyes have slowly and unsettlingly begun to open, with the great discomfort it's brought, also comes a feeling of hope and optimism. If, like me, you felt hopeless, helpless, angry, frustrated at the state of our nation over the last year, having no power to change those minds of those who voted for Trump or who stormed the Capitol waving their Confederate flags, the realization that our nation's pervasive racism is not confined to those extremist minds, that it exists right here within our peaceful and beautiful walls, actually gives me hope. While we may be powerless to change their minds, we can certainly change ours. This is something that we can do right here, right now, to make the world a better place. If you've ever wondered why, despite our Immigrants Welcome and Black Lives Matter banners, we're largely a homogenous, not diverse congregation, here's a possible reason why. Many of you know Barbara Park. She's joining us today. In our recent history, she's been the only Black member of our congregation. I knew Barbara casually and liked her very much. I knew her as passionate, kind, friendly, dedicated to helping others. Over the last few months, however, she started becoming more and more vocal about microaggressions and racist encounters that she's experienced at UUFNN. And I came to see a new side of Barbara that, I'll admit, made me squirm in my seat and pushed me way outside my comfort zone. It's a side that is brave, assertive, forthright, and unwilling to back down from confrontation. This side of Barbara has challenged me, unsettled me, and has taught me a lot. I'm thankful to her for reading this speech and giving me permission to share this with you. Learning of Barbara's experiences has not been a comfortable journey. Despite being a person of color, I've grown up quite sheltered, quite privileged, surrounded by people who are also privileged and largely white. The recognition of the Black experience in America is new to me, and I still have a lot to learn. But I'd like to share with you some of what Barbara's experience has taught me. My first reaction to learning of her experiences was denial. Hearing of them made me uncomfortable, really uncomfortable, because I knew how kind and well-intentioned our congregation is. Surely those grievances were not instances of racism. I spent many troubled hours trying to rationalize my unsettled feeling away. Those conflicts must just be a matter of individual personality differences, right? Or differing opinions, instances of simply needing to agree to disagree. But despite how much I tried to convince myself, there was a discomfort in my gut that just would not go away. Little by little, I started seeking out more Black voices, podcasts, audiobooks, webinars, Zoom forums. And as I did, little building blocks of comprehension started slowly clicking into place. Each person who told their story was different from the others in their personality and ways in which they dealt with their experiences. But one thing was always the same: the descriptions of their experiences, the kinds of microaggressions they experienced, the consistent gaslighting, not being taken seriously and being told, you're just too sensitive, that's not a big deal. And then click. These descriptions also matched Barbara's, which again, surely couldn't have happened within our beautiful, loving walls or with our congregants who are full of integrity, political correctness, or could they have? What really brought things home for me was an episode of one of my favorite photography podcasts. The title of the episode was Mental Health, Physical Well-Being, and Racial Injustice as a Wedding Photographer in 2020. In it, Jennifer Riles, an amazingly gifted San Antonio photographer, shared some of her micro and not so microaggressions that she experienced regularly on the job. One of the examples that she shared was a fairly regular occurrence. During the reception, she'd be in her groove, shooting away, country music twanging, being her awesome, competent self, when a guest would come up to her and apologize. Sorry for all the country, we're just so white. Now, she described other incidents much more jaw-dropping, of being petted, claiming to be mistaken for the family dog. But this one, apologizing for the country music, I didn't get it. It seemed like a nice gesture, someone meaning well, reaching out to her, being sensitive of her sense of comfort. But then it dawned on me, as I shifted from focusing on the intentions of the guest who made the comment and started trying to imagine what it would have felt like to Jennifer. Click. Shift over to my own life, a young, hardworking high school and college kid working part-time at JCPenney. I'd worked there from the time I was 16, had worked in almost every department, and I knew the store like the back of my hand. I was friendly, competent, I was awesome at my job. I belonged there, I was in my groove doing my thing. But without fail, that confident sense of belonging would be halted in its tracks by a well-meaning customer who'd gush with astonished praise. Your English is really good. Or, where are you from? And when I'd answer Reno, they'd persist on and on, rephrasing the question until eventually I'd dryly reply, 4 generations ago, my ancestors came from Japan. And still they'd persist. You've never been to Japan? You don't speak Japanese? What a shame. To which I'd want to reply, my family's been here just as long as yours. Why is it only a shame for me? So what did that have in common with the apology for the country music? Well, the person committing the microaggression didn't mean ill. They weren't spitting on me or calling me yellow or carting me off to an internment camp. They were expressing curiosity and interest in me. But yet, how did it make me feel? I felt othered. Here, I thought I was in a place I belonged. I was competent, confident, I felt like I fit in. And in an instant, those comments burst that balloon and slammed the message home that you're not like us. You don't fit in. All I see are your Asian features, not your stellar customer service, your fluid efficiency at the cash wrap, your winning product knowledge. And even once I share with you that my family's been in the country for 4 generations, you still can't see beyond my status of other. So then it sunk in. Did those country music apologizing wedding guests mean well? Most likely, yes. Were they crazy white hood wearing fanatics? Most likely not. Did they burst Jennifer Rile's bubble of belonging and tell her in no uncertain terms that they only saw her as other? Most definitely, yes. And by the way, she is an avid country music fan and probably had as much country music as any of those other guests. So at that aha moment, it suddenly clicked. Microaggressions are not limited to right-wing extremists that we've been so unsettled by the last few years. They are quite often committed by well-meaning, good-hearted individuals, liberals and conservatives alike. For me, the term microaggression is misleading. It focuses all of our attention on the actions of the perpetrator, when rather, we need to shift our attention onto how it feels to be the person on the receiving end. It's not about whether we meant to be friendly or meant to be kind. It's all about how we made someone else feel. Which brings me back to Barbara. With that budding aha moment, I realized that yes, our members, myself included, are well-meaning. Yes, we think we're anti-racist. And yes, we made Barbara feel unheard, devalued, and othered. As Reverend Karen put it, we don't know what we don't know. As a congregation, we are so homogenous that we may not even realize that despite our Black Lives Matter shirts and banners and signs and Facebook posts, we don't actually know how to be around a person of color. So here's a gift. I'm gifting you that feeling of discomfort I've been carrying around in my heart for the last few months. The awareness that we, the congregants of UUFNN, have some serious work to do. Jason Reynolds, the New York Times bestselling author, said, "Be not afraid of discomfort. If you can't put yourself in a situation where you're uncomfortable, then you will never grow. You will never change. You will never learn." From comfort to courage, I look forward to embarking on this journey together.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
We offer this litany of love. After each segment, your response is, on the slide, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. Please listen carefully to all of the words expressed. For continuing to focus on the powerful rather than the marginalized, for failing to center or ignoring marginalized voices. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For making any members feel that they are other, for making remarks about someone's hair or skin tone. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For including marginalized persons to enhance our appearance of diversity. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For allowing persons of color to bear the responsibility for white supremacist attitudes and behavior. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For responding with defensiveness when we are invited to see more clearly. For valuing good intentions over a marginalized person's feelings. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For not being the safe community that potential members were looking for seeing someone else being hurt and not speaking up. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For defending the superiority of our own opinion, rather than making space to hear and understand a marginalized voice. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For dwelling on racism's effects on the white soul, rather than learning how racist and capitalist systems actually affect the Black community and communities of color. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For classifying racial abuse as interpersonal conflict, rather than recognizing that systematic harassment exists within the UU community. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For giving the political divide precedence over learning what Black and marginalized activists are calling for. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For failing to hold our liberal friends as responsible and accountable as our conservative ones. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For assuming that we had already done the work. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
We now hold a moment of silence for all of those who have been hurt within our walls. We gather our hearts and our minds and our spirits together in our time of community prayer and meditation. You're invited to record in the chat box those things that are on your hearts today. We send out our love and our energy to the community of Minneapolis as they continue to strive for justice for the murder of George Floyd. We hold all of those who are lonely, who are depressed, who are struggling with COVID, with transitions in life, with worry, with fear, with illness. And we hold them in our hearts, and we offer the prayers and meditations that we want to share in the chat box in these moments. we gather all of our worries and our concerns, our joys and our celebrations, and we hold them together in the heart of love. And we offer our gesture one to another, as is our custom, one hand on the heart, one hand outstretched, palm facing outward, as our way of saying to one another, I see you, I hear you. We are indeed all in this together. Amen.
So, what's next? The point of sharing hard truths about our congregation isn't to make us feel bad. It's to help us to acknowledge these truths and then to work towards accountability and change together. And so I want to tell you a few ways that we are envisioning continuing to tell truths and make change here at UUFNN. The first is to reflect together and share your feelings about the service today. When our service ends, you will be invited into small groups led by a trained facilitator who will help us reflect about what we've heard today. We really hope that you will stay for these conversations, which we expect will last 30 to 45 minutes. You will be in a group that reflects your racial identity. When we divide into identity groups like this, it's often referred to as caucusing. We will have several white caucuses and a Black, Indigenous, and people of color caucus. And you might have questions about why we will be dividing up by racial identity. As we do racial justice work, it's important to know that there is different work we each need to do. And sometimes it's good for us to do that work together, and sometimes it's important for us to do the work separately. So caucusing provides time and space for us to do some of that separate work that's needed. For instance, the white group might work to intentionally think about and understand how white culture and white privilege is alive at UUFNN and share feelings related to that reality. For people of color, the work might be to address the impact of racism at UUFNN and to create a space for healing. We are all impacted by racism, and we all have a role to play in ending it. However, we are affected by racism, and the work we have to do is different. For white people, there's a choice about whether or not you engage in uncomfortable conversations about race, and a choice about how much you feel the racial inequities of our society. If you are a person of color, however, conversations about race are unavoidable. So after the service today, we will do some of our separate work. And then we will be providing several different opportunities in the weeks and months and years to come for continuing the work both separately and together. So first, after today's conversations after the service, the next thing will be to be watching your e-announce this week for several resources that we will share for continuing the work together. We're going to be starting a few programs. We plan to offer a training for all of you who want to be able to recognize microaggressions and feel comfortable speaking up when you recognize them. This isn't about policing each other. It's more about helping one another see when we are causing harm. And this training will also include opportunities for us to practice receiving feedback that might be uncomfortable. This is hard work, and we want to practice covenantal community that calls one another in rather than out. We also plan to offer a practice group for white people to continue unpacking some of what it means to be anti-racist in the United States. We hope this will offer skills and tools and some deeper reflection. And we are in the process of beginning an ongoing caucus group for Black, Indigenous and people of color members of UUFNN. And we hope that this space will offer deeper connection to each other and to UU principles and values. And we'd love to hear about what you think would be helpful to our community as we work to make UUFNN inclusive, accountable, loving, community in all the ways that we truly want to be. So let's start today. Please stay on for our reflection groups after the service. Here's what will happen. If you identify as a person of color and would like to participate in the person of color group, please send us a private message to the UUFNN host screen. That's Emily. And she's putting a message in the chat now so that you can find her easily. And then at the end of the service, everyone will be invited to attend a group, just like we always do after the service. And you will just need to click on accept to enter the group as you always do. And that's it. We're going to begin the work today, and then we're going to continue our commitment to this work going forward. Thank you for being committed to the work.
Thank you, community, beloved community, so much for being here today to do this very important work. We'll go off to our small groups in just a few moments, but just a couple of reminders that we wanted you to watch your email for all of our programming and connection opportunities. The posse who serves hungry people each Wednesday needs a variety of items to help with that effort, as well as volunteers. And you can look for that announcement in our email for more details of how you can help. We're going to join in together on Love Will Guide Us one more time, and I invite you to absorb and really live into these words.
Love will guide us, peace has trod us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from creed to king. Love will guide us through the hot night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hot night.
Once again, please stay on for our reflection groups. If you identify as a person of color and would like to participate in the BIPOC group, the Black Indigenous Person of Color group, please send a message now to UUFNN, a private message in the chat. And everyone will be invited to a group in just a few moments, and you'll need to click to accept to enter the group. This will take just a few moments to get our trained facilitators into the groups and then get everyone else into groups. So your patience is appreciated. It will take just a few minutes to get that done, and then we'll begin the work in these groups. Would you form our gesture in the windows as we do, a reminder of our connection for the blessing? Beloved, you have everything you need to do this work. Let's go now and change the world with our love. Blessed be, amen, and namaste.
Stephanie, I'm trying to get you into that room. I apologize if you weren't able to get in there.
What room, Philip? What's going on?
So she came back in the main room. I'm trying to get her to unmute so we can ask her what she needs to do.
Okay.